Welcome back to The Legend of Nobunaga. Today we're starting Chapter 3. We've got a couple of battles to look at. First I want to talk about this map. It looks kind of strange because you can see up here the Kiso River. This isn't even Mino Province. This map is very zoomed out. Mino Province, you can see there's a river just below the word Tsunomata. That river is the border of Mino and Owari, so that's where the actual combat would have taken place in this war. Kanbei over here, that's not even related. I don't know why Nobunaga would be over there, but that's a minor battle, and the minor battles don't really have to be historical, so that's okay. Kanbei is sort of where the ninjas are over in Iga. That's where ninjas come from originally. So basically what we have to do is we have to pick one of Kiso River or Tsunomata because you can't do both levels. Apparently when you do one, the other one disappears, and we'll see that later on in fact. So I decided to pick Tsunomata because I'd actually heard of it, and it's sort of a historical battle. It represents events that take place over a course of about 4, even longer than maybe like 6 years. Like this one level represents this campaign, but I'll talk about the whole campaign when we're in there, once the battle actually gets going. Let's see the history.
Nobunaga made plans to build a fortification at Tsunomata on the west banks of the Nagara River in the southern regions of Inabayama. This was to be his base for a wave of attacks on Inabayama Castle. However, such an enterprise was wrought with danger for those attempting to build so near the enemy. The task was undertaken by Nagahide Niwa and Katsuie Shibata. However, they suffered heavy casualties in an enemy assault and were driven back.
I don't think Katsuie and Niwa actually tried to build the castle, but I'll talk about that in a moment.
Lord Nobunaga, let me do this for you!
Monkey, you out of your mind? Even I couldn't do it. You wouldn't stand a chance.
Nothing to worry about. I promise I won't screw up. I have a plan.
What's that? Screw up? You cheeky monkey!
Quiet down.
Cheeky monkey.
You seem pretty sure of yourself. Go ahead and try. I'll come along when it's done.
Ha ha ha! I am honored by your trust! You can count on me!
What is he doing? Yeah, this is like one of Monkey's first big achievements coming up.
Our planning is done. Let us prepare for war.
Sir!
It was sort of when he was noticed initially. Here we are at the defense of Tsunomata. So there are actually several years of conflict before this battle takes place, but it's ignoring that in the game.
Tell me again why we're risking our neck for someone like the Lord Nobunaga.
I seem to be kind of taken with him.
Now that's sick! Even for your ape face!
Bit of homophobia there. It's all good.
Come on, get a move on it! I'll give a huge bonus to the person who works the hardest!
The logs are all bound together and floated down the river. Then set up. You're right. This is gonna be quick!
So that was his secret plan. He used the river to transport materials to very quickly build the castle right in front of the enemy army.
Those weakling upstarts of Owari. Not in 1,000 years will we ever let
Here's
them touch
Tatsuoki
the
Saito. I've got a few things to say about him.
Enemy attack!
This should be enough to hold them off.
Who's there?
My Lord Nobunaga! Idiot!
Tonight I'll be staying here with you. Tomorrow our
How
forces
romantic.
arrive. We have to hold off the enemy until then.
My Lord Nobunaga!
So in theory, in the legend, Hideyoshi built this castle in one night, and they will call it Hideyoshi's One Night Castle, or Tsunomata
You're all
Ichiya.
All right, let's get to work.
I like how it says you're all here. There's only two of us.
Nobunaga! I went out, and this is what I saw out there.
It was raining men. So let's check out the battle strategy we're going to have to deal with.
Our objective is to protect this newly built fortress from the enemy attack.
Sounds simple
we can also
enough.
achieve victory by defeating the enemy commander, Tatsuoki Saito.
Ah, Tatsuoki. You will be my
Saito
prey.
is said to be positioned in this general area.
Is said to be positioned. Not very solid evidence.
Hey, we built this place! We can't let them take it without a fight!
Lord Nobunaga, how should we position the men?
Right, so it's time for me to set up my battle formation. So we need to protect that little camp down at the bottom right hand corner. Koroku and Tokichiro are sort of positioned for us. Also, we have reinforcement coming. Katsuie and Kicho are due to show up at some point, and I have no choice about that. So basically all I can do is pick who's going to escort Nobunaga. You can see the officers Inahime and Keiji are bonus officers, so I'm not sure are too historical, so I don't use them. So I'm going to pick Toshie Maeda. Pretty solid choice, I think. Oh yeah, then I had to give a few orders, because I saw that these guys were due to run off into the corner. I thought I'd change that. Be a bit more conservative and defensive about it, not have them go running off whenever they showed up. And I gave these guys some arbitrary orders, just because if they move forward a bit, their formation will be a bit less linear, which is how I prefer it, personally. Yeah, then I decided to look up here, have a look at Tatsuoki Saito, he's sitting up at the top. There's also a strange like mark on the map. I think that means there's a village there, so I need to check that out at some point during the level. So this castle we can see has tons of stockades all around it, so it's going to be pretty easy to defend. The idea is that although it looked like he built it in one night,
Nobunaga, a work of genius.
it was actually
With
just
this, you win. I know it.
like a facade of a castle. It wasn't really a castle at all.
You all know what you have to do. Now go!
So he would have constructed a skeleton during the night and then built one side of it so the enemy would see a fully built castle, but actually it was just one wall, and they would have spent the next few days building the castle properly whilst the enemy was stalled.
Was built in a night. It must be protected from the Saito army. Got it?
So he's like, yeah, we built a fortress, let's not use it, because he knows how crappy it is. It was pretty cheeky, and as I said, it was the event that made Tokichiro Kinoshita really come to light in Nobunaga's eyes when he achieved this. Earlier we saw that it said that Nagahide and Katsuie were the first to attempt to build the castle. I don't think that's true at all. They would have probably been involved in the Mino campaign that took place before this historical battle. Won a rampage there. But I don't think they tried to build any castles. Basically, what happened in the build-up to this battle, for about 3 to 4 years, Nobunaga was trying to attack Mino, and he kept going in with his army, but Nobunaga's army was like nothing at this stage. He had like less than 1,000 troops, probably like 700 is one of the estimates I've seen. Whereas the Mino army had like 3,000 and could easily just deploy a much larger force in front of Nobunaga and force him to fall back. This happened lots of times, like Nobunaga just couldn't win. And this took place, yeah, for about 3 years, and he actually attacked the Mino stronghold of Inobiyama. And Inobiyama is the decisive battle of this chapter. But there was actually a second battle at Inobiyama that took place beforehand when Nobunaga attacked and got completely whooped and got sent back. But you don't really hear much about that. It's not mentioned at all in the legend. It would have happened before this battle. Nobunaga has basically just before this battle suffered a series of heavy defeats and is really
Fear not and
I don't know, he was pretty angry at himself. So what he did was he essentially erased the history books of those events. He sort of made it clear that he didn't want anyone to know he'd lost those battles because he was, I don't know, maybe embarrassed, very angry about it. So yeah, he rewrote history for himself. There's a source called the Nobunaga Chronicles, which is a contemporary source which writes about a lot of Nobunaga's life, and he basically erased that section of his life from the Chronicles. So it, for all intents and purposes, didn't happen, in his opinion, but we now know that it did.
Were you expecting anything else?
Pretty cheeky of him, actually. Bit of the old history written by the victors sort of thing. Oh well. So you can see in the battle I'm pretty successfully defending the castle. I've taken out the first wave of enemy attackers using some rampages to help me out. Wasn't so difficult at all. Now I had to just sort of wait around for the enemy to show up. Something else that happened before this battle is that Tokichiro Kinoshita, for about 2 years, would have been going around Mino, trying to get Mino officers to defect. And that was his other big achievement, which was, it was before this castle building achievement. He went around and he spoke to a lot of the Saito officers, and he was trying to convince them to defect. And a massive amount of them agreed, including some of the big officers, like some of their senior officers, and one particular guy, I've forgotten his name now. There was a very important strategist on the Mino side who defected to Oda's side, well, specifically to Tokichiro's unit. He became like a retainer of Tokichiro, in fact. It's pretty rare, because Tokichiro is just like an Ashigaru. Now he has his own retainer, so his rise to power is really going quite well. But yeah, the reason that these Saito officers were very willing to defect is because Tatsuoki Saito, the enemy commander in this battle, who we've seen a couple of times, he looks like a sort of mean guy. He was really like incompetent. I mean, I don't really mean that as some sort of insult. He was 14 when he took over from his father. I think he actually was very much involved in stealing power from his parents. He was very plotting, and then yeah, he did end up taking power over the Saito clan when he was just 14, and he was like, yeah, basically rubbish. He had no idea what to do as a clan ruler, as a military and political commander. So a lot of his retainers and the generals in the Saito army didn't like him because of his obvious incompetence, and that made it very easy for the Oda side to really gain the respect of the Saito officers, and they weren't so willing to take him on, more and more so. And then obviously Tokichiro went around and just whipped him up. He did use a lot of bribery, to be honest. He did use a very liberal application of the old money to make them come across to Oda's side, but they were happy to agree. They didn't feel much loyalty to Saito, so that sort of allowed that money plan to work. So you can see I managed to uncover a couple of enemy officers over in this forested area on the side. I was sort of just looking for items, but I come across some enemies. And I leave Tokichiro and Koruku over by the base to see if any enemies show up. Get some good blocking of that arrow volley. I did also good blocking in this battle. I sort of got used to it by this stage. I'd played 2 minor battles just before this, so my actual skills at playing the game had sharpened up a little bit. I used a lot of rampages as well. I was trying to get everyone's condition up to excellent, so they would be fresh for the next battle, because I quite like the set of characters I have in this battle. Oh god, very bad charge attack trying to use there. There we go, that's a little bit better. Still taking arrow fire. So this battle gets quite interesting towards the end, so I wanted to get the actual history towards the beginning, and now I'll talk a little bit more about what actually happens in the battle. So this pesky Saito officer, is quite annoying me. Nobunaga is just such a beast as an actual unit in the game. Like, he just defeats everything. There you go, so we just absolutely annihilate that enemy officer. There's just like no contest really. I was really wondering what was going to happen in this battle, because for a lot of the time the enemies didn't seem to be here, and it gave me an opportunity to actually go off and start looking for items and such. So I decided to check out the village you can see ahead of us.
Let's go out there and crush them.
I used the Gale skill to get there a bit faster, just in case some enemy units show up.
I make up for in spirit.
Whatever, Tokichiro. You can also see that Tokichiro has a female unit equipped. I decided to do that just for the lols.
I have been expecting you. I have something I would like to tell you.
So, random woman with a very dull voice tells us that one of the Miyoshi Three, who are some of Mino's big generals, feels like defecting from Tatsuoki, so that's good news, and I think it's historical as well. I think one of the Miyoshi Three did actually screw things up for everyone else. No, not the Miyoshi Three, the Mino Three. Sorry, the Miyoshi Three is something else. The Mino Three is what this set of generals is called. Miyoshi Three is like a family unit. These are just 3 big generals, and they appeared on the map. You might have noticed. You can see them here in the center. I'm actually looking at them now. So those 3. The guy on the left-hand side is the one who wants to defect. So I was wondering if they were going to come towards me, or whether I'd have to go and fight all 3 of them simultaneously, which I really didn't want to do. But then, at this very moment, they charge out. Tatsuoki Saito is having a bit of a strop over the fact he can't take this fortress. Poor Tatsuoki. So I buff myself up ready for this conflict. We're going to see what happens. They're actually quite good opponents, these Mino 3. You can see my charge did like nothing to them. When I saw that, I was just like, oh snap, and got Nobunaga to come and join the battle. It didn't look like I was going to win without him when I realised like my biggest attack did no damage. And I was like, oh dearie me. And I started spamming some buffs, and looks like I considered doing a rampage, but then couldn't be bothered. Oh yes, I'm checking his health, because I only like to do rampages when I actually need to, just to speed things up a little bit. But Tokichiro needs to do a rampage by the looks of things. So let's get him into the action. This guy was quite a hard
Just like
opponent.
I planned.
I only just managed to kill him. I killed him in like the final 1 second of the rampage when the timer was counting down. Just about got away with it. We need Nobunaga to show up around now. I was very impatient, so I used this buff to buy a little time for myself.
I'll show you how a true warrior fights in battle.
Not so bad. The one thing I wanted to say was that in the game it sort of tries to present Tatsuoki Saito as like a villain.
Victory shall soon
He
be
seems sort of
ours.
evil, which, I don't know, maybe he was sort of vaguely evil, but not really. I think Nobunaga was the villain of this conflict. He just attacked because he thought Saito was weak. He just wanted to take his land, even though he did
Time
it
to show
very
the strength
ineffectually
of
for
the
many years and lost loads of battles in the process. He eventually used that bribery process I mentioned to win him round. But then the game is sort of like giving the Nobunaga his amazing presentation, so fair enough. I mean, he is amazing in some ways. I'm not sure he was amazing like as a person. Like, I'm not sure he was a very friendly person. He generally didn't really like people. He was very mistrustful. There are only very few of his own retainers he trusted. Tokichiro Kinoshita was one of the few people who managed to gain Nobunaga's trust. One of the other ones was a guy called Mitsuhide Akechi, who actually, at the current time, is one of Mino's samurai. I'm not sure if we see him yet. We might see him in the next level or something. Mitsuhide Akechi is definitely one of the most important characters in Nobunaga's legend and his real life story, because Mitsuhide Akechi is basically the reason Nobunaga dies prematurely. Mitsuhide is a very crazy character. Well, at least he is in the legend. In real life, Mitsuhide is actually a very uninteresting character, apart from the fact that he caused Nobunaga to die. Like, he didn't really do much. He was one of Oda's big retainers. You see, I think it was Koroku here, used his charging katana attack where they run around in circles and hack everything, and absolutely annihilated my own men. Don't know what he was trying to do. That was a bit of a poor show from the AI. Managed to defeat that enemy unit though. So I sent Nobunaga off to the south because enemy reinforcements have shown up. And some more enemy reinforcements show up back at the, well, behind the enemy's main position. So I moved Tokichiro back across the river to receive them, thinking they would charge out at me, but they don't seem to. I'm sort of getting a little impatient and wondering what's going to happen. They just sit right on the edge of the map. Meanwhile, Nobunaga's charging across the plains towards the other guys, just going off on his own, but we'll see how he does. I was assuming these units were going to run right at my camp and try and take it, but they didn't really. So Nobunaga reaches his destination, and the enemy hasn't even moved, so I decided to move towards them, and then suddenly they start charging at me, so that's sort of what I wanted, because when the enemy charges at Nobunaga, they're in trouble, because Nobunaga can just set up this cavalry charge, as I'm doing now, and rush forward. And as he's rushing forward, I use Rally on him to further increase the damage of this cavalry charge. So Rally increases your attack values. Let's switch back over to the Nobunaga. Oh, he absolutely wasted that Saito captain. Didn't quite kill him, but he took down all his health, basically, and the Saito captain falls straight away. And the Saito samurai doesn't stand a chance against the combined attack of Nobunaga and Toshie. What a shame. What was I talking about? Mitsuhide Akechi. Yeah, he is one of the Mino samurai. I don't think he was at the Tsunemata battle. Actually, he might have been. He may have been at the Battle of Tsunemata, for all I know. Yeah. I think the Battle of Tsunemata wasn't really a battle. Like, it was more like an event. Like, over a period of days, Tokichiro builds this castle right in front of the enemy's main base in Inabayama, so that Nobunaga can use it as a staging post for his final attack. And it's just about really a standoff between the Mino forces, who could see a fortress, and the Oda forces, who were sitting behind the facade of the fortress, which basically had a skeleton. But since they were delayed, they were making the fortress more and more real until finally it was a proper castle. And after the battle, Nobunaga actually gave Tokichiro the castle as like a gift. He actually came to be the ruler of this castle. Ruling a castle in this era was like a big deal. Because if you ruled the castle, it meant you de facto ruled all the lands around it, because the castle had some level of control over them. You see, now I'm going for an item that I spotted, but then I have to tell Nobunaga to that's right, go for it on his own, because the Saito reinforcements have finally charged forwards. I switch back into Tokichiro to take them out. I can't remember, but this is very near the time period in which Tokichiro Kinoshita changes his name to Hideyoshi. I think we might actually get some hints at that towards the end of the battle, so I'll I'll wait to talk about that for now. Tokichiro and Koroku have actually taken some damage. They have very low health values, or troop values if you like. And their health and troop values are determined by something called rank. And rank is like an invisible statistic in the game, which it doesn't really tell you about except when it changes. And basically your generals have a rank, and their general's rank increases if they do particularly well in battle. And what particularly well isn't clear because the game never tells you. But what it actually means is, if they get do the first attack, they defeat the first enemy unit, they defeat the enemy commander, and they defeat lots of enemy officers, and like be the shining star of the battle, they can get promoted a rank. That just increases their maximum troop count or their maximum health, which is very useful. So that's why, for example, Nobunaga has over 3,000, whereas most officers have just over 2,000. Toshie has a little more. Toshie actually ranked up in one of the early battles, so that probably explains why he has a little more than other people. So I haven't really made any conscious effort to try and get anyone to level up so far. I actually just concentrate on winning the battle, rather than sort of using one unit to kill all the enemy units. Very good spear charge attack there, actually. Itetsu Inaba. So that was the guy who was distrustful of the enemy commander, Saito. So having defeated him basically gives him a little bit more respect for Oda, so maybe he will come to our side later on. I think that is historical. There were loads of Mino officers that defected to Oda, and I think one of the Mino Three did, and I think it was actually that guy. Although, in another telling of the story, it was all three of them defected. I'm not sure. So you can see I've given up on the defense. I'm now going for the enemy commander, so I order my two squads to Nobunaga to take the flanking position, and Tokichiro to go and distract Saito in the center. But bam! 3 enemy units like appear out of nowhere. They were sitting there, I couldn't see them. So now I'm a little bit in trouble. I'm out. They have equal numbers to me, and possibly stronger ones than I have. So I sent Nobunaga to take on the enemy commander and switch over to Tokichiro. I'm gonna have to do pretty well in this conflict against these 3 enemy units. So first I reduce the defense of Toshimitsu Saito. I think Toshimitsu Saito is possibly the brother of Tatsuoki Saito. I can't remember actually. Here he is.
Today is the day I defeat you.
Voiced by Steve Blum, like so many video game characters. So yeah, that's the game's presentation of Saito. As you can see, he is not a 14-year-old incompetent, as he really was. He is the sort of grizzled 30-something warlord. So that's one of the major differences in this presentation of the story, anyway. So I decided to use one of my big magic attacks at this moment. The magic attacks are good because they confuse the enemy a little bit. It means they can't attack you for a few seconds after you use them. Gives you some time to set up some better formations or prepare strategy. In this case, I just charged forward with my cavalry charge, and it was pretty damn effective actually. It got me right in the middle. But when your unit is interspersed with another enemy unit and you use a normal attack, it does tons of damage. I charge forward again because I already want to get to Mitsuharu Fura at the back, because his archers are going to tear me apart. And Kicho and Katsuye finally show up at this moment. A little bit too late to help me actually. If they'd shown up like a minute ago, this final assault on Tatsuoki Saito would have gone a lot better. But oh well, poor them. I wanted to check how Tatsuoki was doing, and he was slightly beating Nobunaga. So I decided to order Kicho and Katsuye to go and rear attack Saito and support Nobunaga. You can see on the left hand side, Toshie is taking some fairly heavy damage from Tatsuoki. I needed to get over there fast, but before I could, I saw that item, so I had to go and grab that sweet item. D to delicious. I got some pretty cool items in this battle actually. Well, we'll see them soon enough. So now I just have to micromanage myself. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units defeating 1 enemy unit. Basically, this is going to be a massacre. Absolutely no problem. I decided to use some of my skills just because I can. Ah, poison. Very nice. So he throws some poisonous gas at the enemy unit. Sort of confuses them. Didn't do much damage.
You pay.
And now Kicho showed up. I'm going to use my heal skill. Oh no, Nobunaga. She is going to heal his wife. Remember, Kicho is actually the nephew of Tatsuoki Saito. I keep saying Saito. Yeah, they have the same father. Yeah, I think the same father. No. Kicho yeah, it's one generation above Saito. So yes, they have Kicho's father is Saito's grandfather, Saito Dosan, he's called. But here, Kicho has no qualms about attacking her own family. We saw that a couple of in the last part, sorry, the cutscene that Kicho was fully prepared to go against her homeland because basically she didn't like Tatsuoki Saito either, so none of his friends liked him. So here's a little rampage. I managed to defeat Tatsuoki in single combat, pretty useful. More of just like an honourable victory. Like I didn't really need to defeat him because his unit was going to fall apart at any moment anyway. I just felt like doing it. Plus it means Katsuya gets a health status increase. So now I'm just like looking for skills to waste just to give my skills some experience. All the things I had were like buffs, and everyone already has a buff, so I didn't want to waste it. Even though I probably should have, just to give it experience. So I felt that was unprofessional. I've actually already won the battle. Like there's only 150 enemies left, and he just runs at this stage.
Not ready to give up yet.
He'll never give up smoking.
The enemy has been routed. Prepare for the celebration.
So it's another victory. You can see I gave Nobunaga Takevatsu Honda's helmet. It looks pretty damn sweet. So let's see what sort of cool stuff I got for winning this battle. Defeated all the enemy officers. Not bad at all. 19 officers defeated. And let's look at the score. Boom. Rank S. Almost top score. Actually, in one of the minor battles I managed to get 400. Like, look at the complete top score. So a ton of prizes there and some money. Let's have a look at those prizes more closely. Tai Shakuten Talisman, not too interesting. Adjutant's Armor. That's pretty stylish. Sort of a red look going on. Looks pretty good. The Karasu T-Ball makes you better using Katana Samurai, fair enough. Catfish helmet, whoa, like this looks pretty damn sweet, look at that. It's like a 4-foot helmet sticking off his head. I would love to be wearing that helmet in real life right now. And a heal primer, pretty useful. So here's all the levels up. Just sort of they go on by, everyone sets on fire for a little bit. And their skills go up. Learn a few things. Katsuya Shibata got better at using mounted spears, which is good because mounted spears are my favourite type of unit. If I had my way, we just have thousands of mounted spears throughout the army, but you have to. I don't have enough mounted spear units to go around, so I have to use some of the other units. Plus, it's very not tactically good. It just looks cool, feels cool.
We've driven a wedge into Mino. Now it's on to Inabayama.
Good old Inabayama.
Hey, monkey. I hear you got yourself a beautiful wife.
His wife's called Nene, I believe.
It just kind of happened.
I don't think she's anyone particularly important.
I guess I'll have to look for someone else to marry Ichi.
Say
well, I
what?
thought that you and Ichi would get along pretty well, yeah. Oh well, just forget about it.
Heartbroken,
No,
absolutely
now that you have a
heartbroken.
bride, you're gonna have to change your name.
Now there we go, he is changing his name. Although actually, he didn't change his own name. Nobunaga just gave him a new name and he accepted it. And that name was Hideyoshi, which is, it combines the characters of Katsuya Shibata and Nagihide Niwa, Nobunaga's closest retainers. I don't know if the game calls him differently from now on. I don't think it does actually. Maybe it's later on that his name officially changes.
My lord, there is one here who wishes to enter your service.
So here we go. Here's one of the Mino Three who's showing up.
Certainly you have heard of oldie Tetsu Inaba. That's me.
Of course
you
I
can count
have.
on me in a tough spot.
Note he has the same voice as Tatsuoki
Excellent.
Saito.
I look forward to witnessing your ability on the field of battle.
I find that pretty weird. Also, he's from the Inaba clan, and his main castle is Inabayama. I'm sure there's a relation between that as
My
two.
lord,
The naming of
it's
castles
current
in this
situation.
era was very symbolic. People would always name castles to mean things, or possibly named after the people who own them. For example, I think Inabayama is going to be renamed by Nobunaga once he captures it. So the next battle is Sekigahara. If you're familiar with this period in history, the Battle of Sekigahara actually takes place in 1600, and this is basically a different Battle of Sekigahara. I don't know why it's allowing me to... I don't know why I didn't give it a different name so it didn't confuse it, but the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600 was basically the final battle of this era, in which Tokugawa Ieyasu finally restored peace to the land and started the Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule for 200 years after this period. But for some reason there's another Battle of Sekigahara, and we're going to have to take it on, but of course that's all going to be in the next episode of The Legend of Nobunaga. Because for now I need to take on that minor battle and get my forces ready. So next time we'll see... Actually, that's a strange point. I thought that the siege of Inabayama Castle would be the decisive battle of this chapter, rather than a battle at Sekigahara. We'll see if that Sekigahara thing isn't just a, I guess, a different name for the Inabayama Castle battle. It was in the wrong location on the map for Inabayama, so that's a bit worrying. I don't know. Well, I guess it's going to be a surprise for me as well what happens in the next part of The Legend of Nobunaga. Chapter 3 Part 2. It looks like the final part of Chapter 3, so Chapter 3 we whipped through that pretty fast. So once he captures Mino, Nobunaga's going to go on to much bigger things. He's going to be... he'll have a strong power base, basically, and a much bigger military capacity, and he's going to want to take over as much of Japan as he can. But all of that's coming in the future, so for now, I wish you a good day, and I'll see you next time on The Legend of Nobunaga.